Hello, everyone from Chelsea Fan TV. I hope we're all doing very well, guys. Good to see you back on the channel. Today, we're going to be running through all of the latest Chelsea news. At the moment, it's really, really weird. You don't hear this too much. The training standards at Chelsea seem to be in the bin. And I'm going to explain why during this video. Enzo Maresca was left absolutely fuming as a number of the first team players were beaten 3-0 in training by the under 21s. So we're going to dive more into that as we go. Smash the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel. And let's get straight into it. So, I mean, I can't believe that this news has come out, to be honest with you, because we should be talking about the fact that players are pushing hard. Everything, you know, in terms of that respect is looking good on the training pitch, but maybe we just struggle to just get the results when it really matters. We'll get the training side of things. That's not a problem. The players are training well, but just when we come up against top opposition in a very competitive league with fans in the stands, you got people watching worldwide, things don't always come together. And it seems like they're not even coming together at Cobham. If that doesn't make you worried, I don't know what does. But let's, don't just hear it from me. Look at the sources themselves and judge it for yourself. Enzo Maresca was left fuming and cancelled yesterday's day off for the players after a first team 11 lost 3-0 in a training match to the under 21s. The first team players included Gusto, Badiashile, Tosin, Lavia, Sancho, and Kunku. And that is where we are at in that respect. So first of all, I just want to say that I absolutely agree. Before we go on to any of the negatives with this, I absolutely agree that Maresca's well within his rights to take any days off away from the players if they're not given their 100%. Otherwise, what's the point of having time to rest if you're already resting on the training pitch? Does that not seem logical? So I don't have a problem with that. But what I will say is, if there is truth to this, and you would presume that there is truth to the fact that this has happened, because it's not black, it is black and white, right? They either had a day off or they didn't have a day off. The day off was either cancelled or it wasn't. And it seems to me that it wasn't. And they did lose 3-0 to the under 21s. So I don't see how that can be misinterpreted. We can look at the level of maybe anger or punishment that Maresca has directed towards the squad. And, when they say he was left fuming, for example, like, what does that really mean? Did he have a go at someone? Did he complain? Was he silent? So I think a lot of those factors can be, debated. Again, it's a training match, though. So the argument is, well, that's the whole point of training, isn't it? You're supposed to be trying to implement what the manager's telling you, or working on specific parts of your game or the team's game, and you're bound to make mistakes and lose in matches. That's part of football, isn't it? The issue is, though, it's not the fact that the first team lost; it's who they lost to. Right, if they would have lost 3-0 to another side of the first team, let's just say we've got Nkunku and Sancho, etc. They were part of that team. Tosin, Badiashile, Gusto, Lavia, etc. They were part of a team and they lost to Madueke and Jackson and Colwell and Caicedo. Then I don't think people would have too much of an issue. But the fact that it was against the under 21s is where this has a little bit of a bit of a discussion, to be quite frank, because you shouldn't be losing 3-0 to your under 21s if you have standards. I mean, that's just the reality of it. John Terry spoke about standards. He was pushing players every day. He was getting angry at players, making players feel uncomfortable because they weren't up to the Chelsea standard. What is the Chelsea standard now then? That's what I asked you. What is the Chelsea standard? J4MO says, crisis farming, let's protest, guys. I mean, that will certainly be a discussion at some point, I'm sure. Jordan says, big up, Alex. Big up to you, Jordan, as well. Rory says, it's just bait farming. I remember when we lost to Brentford under Tuchel and the papers came out saying the team was imploding under Tuchel's strict regime. Utter rubbish. Fair play to Rory. Big up to you, my friend. Big up to Daniel as well. I hope you're doing well, mate. J4MO says, team losing behind closed doors games all the time, but let's be negative over nothing like usual. Daniel says, finally, we got everyone fit for Spurs and we don't have any setbacks. Hopefully, I absolutely agree with that. I mean, that would be good. We've got everyone fit against Tottenham. We have to win games with Jackson, Noni, and Palmer as well. CFC Daniel says, Johnny Minerals was always right. We need to get behind him and our movement. Blue coat out. I just want to highlight, when we talk about Maresca and the team under Maresca, can we not agree that, first of all, this is a manager that was hired and clearly wants to perform? There's no doubt about that. So I don't have anything against Maresca in that sense. I believe that he's obviously trying as hard as he can and he wants success. And this is where the ownership and the recruitment comes in, because they hired this guy. So now we're looking at a manager, and ultimately we've got all these problems, and Maresca is part of that. But he is, it's much deeper than that. You look at the players that were involved in these games as well. I mean, how many of those players are going to be at Chelsea next season? Will Gusto be at Chelsea next season? Will Badiashile be there? Will Tosin be there? Will Lavia be there? Will Sancho be there? Will Nkunku be there? Now, some of them obviously will, but I think there are question marks over certain players. And I think two of those players I would look at straight away and say that they clearly don't like playing for this manager because he is not able to get the best out of them as individuals. And system is one thing, and getting the best out of players as individuals is another thing. And people seem to really not understand that just because you have a good system in theory, which Maresca does, because obviously he hails from, managing alongside Guardiola as his assistant, and he's obviously seen one of the greatest managers in world football work in his management over a number of years. But just because the system works at Man City does not mean it works at Chelsea. Just because it works with certain players doesn't mean it will work with others. And this is where, in my opinion, take any other manager out of the equation. Let's just look at Maresca. I think the one thing that he needs to improve on is finding a way to get the best out of individuals, sometimes at the detriment of the way the team will play as a whole. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, very simply put, let's just look at 2025 as a whole. We've played pretty poorly. If you were to look at this team in 2025, this Chelsea team, and I was to run through all of the fixtures that we've played, the results that we've had in 2025, and then we were to look back on those performances as well, I would ask you, how many of those performances did we play well in? How many of those performances were convincing? Now, obviously, when it came to December, we had a little blip that started at Everton, and that cycle continued. We drew there, and then we lost to Fulham and Ipswich. But we won't even count that because that was last year. We drew against Palace. We drew against Bournemouth. We beat Wolves. We lost against City. We beat West Ham. We lost against Brighton. We lost against Brighton again. We lost to Villa. We beat Southampton 4-0. We beat Copenhagen, Leicester, and Copenhagen again. And then we've lost against Arsenal. Now, I'm just saying from my opinion, and I'd love to hear your opinion as well, 2025 has been pretty appalling in terms of the type of football that Chelsea have played and the results that we've got as well. Strasbourg in 2025 have better results than Chelsea. Do you think that's acceptable? Question mark. Do you think that that makes Liam Rosnier a better manager than Enzo Maresca? Do you think that that means Strasbourg have a better squad than Enzo Maresca? Now, to be quite frank, I actually can't compare Rosnier and Maresca because their CV is not too. It's not actually too different. They're both inexperienced managers. The only difference is Maresca's been under the helm of Guardiola, and Liam Rosnier hasn't. He was managing Hull because he used to play for Hull. So I can't compare him in that respect. But what I can look at the results in black and white, and I can say that we drew to Palace. Those are points dropped. We beat Morecambe, fantastic. We scraped a draw against Bournemouth because of a Reece James free kick. And then we beat Wolves convincingly. We lost to Man City because of the fact that we had Robert Sanchez in goal. That game was there for the taking, but who picked Sanchez? And then we managed to squeeze a win against West Ham, which I was very happy with. Both of the Brighton games showed a lack of ambition and fight. And then we lost to Aston Villa, actually not playing terribly, but capitulating, totally capitulating. The 4-0 win against Southampton was underwhelming and very boring. And against Copenhagen, the best part of that match was the atmosphere of the home fans. Leicester, again, we managed to scrape a 1-0 win. Probably should have drawn that game, if we're being totally honest. And against the poor Leicester side as well. And then we managed to scrape a win against Copenhagen, and we lost convincingly to Arsenal. Why am I going through this? Because we are just talking about what I was saying earlier, the training match that the first team lost 3-0. Yeah. But does it really surprise you when I go through the results we've had in 2025? Does that really shock you? Do you think that this is something that's only just happened? Like, have you not seen capitulation in other games? Do you think that Maresca wasn't fuming when, we lost to City or Brighton twice or Villa or Arsenal? Like, surely if we care about the style of play, Maresca would have been fuming after beating Southampton 4-0, after beating Leicester 1-0, after beating Copenhagen both times, because of the quality of football. Yeah. So I'm seeing two factors that come back to this manager. And again, we know the manager is not the biggest issue. We're fully aware of that. And we know that this is an ownership problem. I accept that. But again, the ownership and the recruitment team aren't in charge of running our training sessions. Maresca is. And he's in charge of setting the team up in the league as well. So his results are a reflection on the way we are run. And if you're telling me we've got Tottenham coming up against, we've got Brentford away coming up as well. We've got Tottenham on Thursday next week. We've got Brentford on the Sunday of the same week. Then we're going to Warsaw as well. We're going to Poland, and we've got Ipswich, and we play Warsaw again. Fulham away. Everton at home. That is all next month. That's all in April. And we've got our first team losing 3-0 against the under-21s. Does that give you confidence that we are going to go and beat the teams I've just mentioned? Does that give you confidence? I ask you that openly. Okay. The answer from my perspective is no. Okay. Now, obviously, we can win some of the games. I would be surprised if we don't beat Tottenham. Tottenham have been just terrible, right? So from that perspective, I think we can absolutely beat Tottenham. I'm not totally pessimistic here. Brentford, I think we will struggle. Warsaw, I honestly don't know what to expect. I think if we play a strong team, then we'll be fine. Ipswich, again, a team that are fighting to stay up. Can we break down a low block? Can we handle Liam Delap? Because we couldn't handle him in the first game. So these are all questions that we have based on the current management at Chelsea. Let's have a look and see what some of you guys have said as well. I know there's a few comments. Why buy players? We should utilize Cobham talents more effectively. Well, because Cobham players can be sold for profit. And in football, the only way you can prove what we call it is free operating cash flow. The only way you can show cash flow in football is to sell players for a profit. And that's why we will very rarely develop players with the intention of having them as long-term prodigies at Chelsea. So I don't think we're ever going to see that, because remember, Chelsea are owned by private equity. Private equity care about cash flow. That's the reality of it. That's why we're not going to see a new stadium with Clearlake, in my opinion, because it goes against everything that private equity stands for. Because building a new stadium is a cash flow deficit, because you have to finance the stadium. You don't just pay a lump sum and build the stadium. You take out a loan, you take out debts, you borrow money. And that money then has interest, which has to be paid off over 10, 20, 30 years. Clearlake can't afford to do that because they're not going to be here that long. Hello, all. We have no excuse not to win against Tottenham. I agree with you on that, my friend. Alex, it has nothing to do with the players not wanting to play for him. It has to do with the sporting directors assembling a shit squad and the owners who hired them. My energy is towards the owners and the sporting directors. Simplest. I agree with you. But do you not also agree that the manager needs to do more? I have been totally open to this conversation. I don't know if you saw me on TalkSport saying, what I did before the protest about this ownership. I've described in detail the debts and the loans that this ownership have taken out and the situation that's leaving our club in. The fact that they hired these sporting directors, absolutely. They all deserve criticism. And I've criticized many, many times. But I'm not just going to be a broken record and say the same things here when there's actually quite a lot of problems that need to be addressed. And the manager is one of them. Now, we all know that Maresca is not going to get sacked. But does that mean that we should sit here, smile, and accept this lack of standards, really, from the manager, which is coming from above as well? Those standards are not there for nothing. They are there because somebody set them. And if nobody's setting the standards, then unfortunately, they will drop. And that's what's happening at Chelsea. So my energy is towards all of them because I think they're all bums, as far as I'm concerned. That's my opinion. Maresca has to get the players in the right direction and the system. Well, how does he do it? That's the question. How many of those performances are at fault of individual errors as well, though? Yes, there's certainly been individual errors. Do you not think the manager is also a part of that, though? Because he picks the players who make the errors. Sanchez has 5 mistakes that have led to goals this season. Do you not think the manager has something to do with that? And if we're not just talking about the fact that the manager picks those players, are we not going to talk about the fact that the manager forces them to play a certain way, which can also encourage them to make mistakes? Cucurella has improved a lot under Maresca. Palmer is as good as last year, but Jackson's injury slowed him down. Fernandez is better than last year. Cucurella has maintained his form from last season, but he's been more consistent because he's been inverting the whole season as opposed to just a part of it. I agree with you there. Palmer's not as good as he was last year. That's not true. He was better last season. Jackson's injury slowed him down. That's true. Fernandez is better than last year. So I agree with you on that. Big up to you, Stephen. I hope you're doing well, mate. Standards are in the bin. Rory says, I think defensively we've actually been pretty solid. I think the defensive performance against Arsenal was okay. Poor positioning from Sanchez that makes us lose. 13 points dropped from Sanchez. And you don't think that maybe having more than one shot would help this team win matches? I mean, come on, man. Come on, guys. We've got to have more standards in this. If you think that the performance from Arsenal was acceptable, then I don't know what to say. Is Maresca perfect? Far from it. But who hired him? The sporting directors have failed in their hires so far, but there is zero accountability. A squad without a top striker, experienced centre-back or decent goalkeeper. Well, 2 of those things I believe will be addressed in the summer. I believe we will address the striker. I believe we will address the goalkeeper. I think, honestly, we're going to get Liam Delap. And I think that we will also be in the market for potentially another striker. I think we might even get a second one. And then I think Marquis will probably end up going on loan. And we'll have hopefully 3 strikers, because if you're playing Champions League football, you can't get away with just having 2. Look what happened. Jackson and Guiu got injured at the same time. And that left us in a situation where, quite frankly, we were fucked. And one thing Maresca did do well is he put Neto up front. And I think that helped an awful lot, having a player like Neto who was able to adapt as much as he could to that role. But if we would have put Nkunku there or another player, I think we would have really struggled anyway. Not that we haven't struggled, because we clearly have. Can you see Jackson starting in the Tottenham game since he came back from injury? And would you take the risk for him to play 90 minutes or take him off 20 minutes towards the end of the game? I wouldn't start Jackson. No, I wouldn't do it. I would want Jackson. Jackson is more important to me when we play a low block like Brentford, because we know that we struggle to take down low blocks. So for me, you play Neto. You play Neto up front, and you look to counter Spurs. That's what you've got to do. You've got to counter attack against Tottenham. We won't do it, but that's what you've got to do. I think we can beat Tottenham. I really do. I'd be very surprised if we don't beat them. I'm not going to say it's sackable to lose to Tottenham, but in this circumstance, if I'm not wrong, they're like 15th in the table. I mean, we're not actually that great ourselves. People are going, well, Chelsea are in the top 4. I think we're about 5 points off of 10th. So, let's not get carried away here and act like we've run away with the Champions League qualifications. It's not automatic, guys. You have to earn it, and we certainly haven't earned it, and we haven't earned. The players haven't earned. The manager hasn't earned the confidence of the fan base to expect that we will do it. Not because we shouldn't do it. Of course we should. But do you have the confidence in our goalkeeper? Do you have the confidence in our defensive structure? I'm asking you this, guys. Our midfield, is it good enough? I would probably say yes, our midfield is good enough. Up top, do we score enough goals? Do we create enough? Do our wingers do enough? Does our system benefit our wingers? And then you put all these things together and you say, are we going to get enough points to finish in a scenario where we are going to finish in the top 4? Right now, if you look at the table, this is what we're seeing, guys. And look, it doesn't look terrible, does it? Because the argument is it's in our hands, right? But what happens if we drop points against Tottenham and every team picks up, or Brentford, let's just say, because I think realistically we actually can drop points against Brentford, right? And then Bournemouth pick up points, right? They're not far behind us. They're 5 points behind us, guys. 2 wins, and they can overtake us if we don't win as well. So I am absolutely bricking it, thinking about this team right now and where we need to be and where we're going. Because people talk about the start of the season we've had, but nobody can disagree with me in saying that you would rather finish the season well and get to where you need to be in that respect, rather than what Maresca did last season at Leicester as well, which is start really well and basically scrape by the skin of your teeth the position that you wanted to get, right? And it wasn't convincing whatsoever. And people were happy, but they weren't really that happy, because you're like, Jesus, we were crap. How do we even finish there in the first place? Let's look at the Championship table from last season. Come on, guys. Where the fuck is the Championship table? Okay, here we go. So you're telling me that this guy is the best manager that's out there? He finished 1 point against Ipswich, right? And at one point, Maresca had a 20-point lead at the top of the table, and he finished 1 point ahead of Ipswich with the best squad, the most money in the championship. I mean, come on. So excuse me for not being confident here. Excuse me. Because that's what we saw last year. I don't have much to ride on with Maresca. So a big part of the argument is, well, how can you talk about this manager when you haven't seen what he's done? But I've seen one season, and to be quite honest with you, I don't think that's impressive. I don't think it's impressive that you can go from being in such a great position to slipping so far down, and you could have easily finished behind Ipswich. But let's just imagine that this is the Champions League, right? And we're not looking at the Championship. You don't want to be in this position where you keep sliding further and further down until it's no longer in your control. That is the epitome of a bottle job. That's the truth. So I hope it doesn't happen. I really hope it doesn't happen. But I mean, that's the way I'm seeing it at the moment. I'm not seeing these things playing out in the sense that other people are. I don't see how we finish in the Champions League with the way this team has been playing, the way the manager's conducting himself. And I don't think the style helps us either, because we're shooting ourselves in the foot in a lot of these games. So listen, that's my opinion. I'd love to know what your opinion is. I am going to go through the comments as well. Now, when we let's look at something more positive. Okay, let's look at the Club World Cup, a competition that I'm really, really excited for, and I will be going out to America to watch the Club World Cup. The value of this competition is extortionate. It's so valuable. It has more value than the Champions League if you were to win it, to give you that kind of to give you a little bit of context in that respect. I got nothing but good things to say about the Club World Cup in terms of the fact that this is a competition that used to be played every year. Now it's being played every 4 years. There's a little bit of hype that builds around it. You've got 32 teams. It's a brand new tournament, obviously, as well. I think it's great. I think it's really, really good. These are the teams in the Club World Cup. So this is going to attract an awful lot of eyeballs. And when I see this competition, I don't see Chelsea winning it. I don't see it, but I do see us taking this competition very seriously, because the financial implications of doing well in this competition are too good to sniff at, and our owners absolutely love the pound note. So when we look at the Club World Cup, I think that we'll take it a lot more seriously than we took the FA Cup this season. I think we'll take it a lot more seriously than we took the Carabao Cup. I think that we will be looking, whether it actually happened, but I think we'll be going down there with the intention to try and win the competition. And I really hope we can do it. Do I think we can? Probably not, because every other club will be looking at it in the same way. Even if they don't want the money for themselves, they will obviously want to use that money to buy better players, invest in their clubs, etc., etc. The prize pot is over £1 billion. Okay, over £1 billion for the Club World Cup, and the winners. I think just in the final itself, there's about £80 million, which is being distributed between everyone. So the winner gets about around an extra sort of. There we go. Where is it? Here we go. Sorry, 90. Oh, that's not true. Is that right? So if you go on Sky Sports, it actually says that you make more for winning the Champions League. But that's not entirely true, guys, because that's just for winning the competition. If you qualify round by round, you would make more from the Club World Cup. You would make more. trying to find it. Who was the journalist that reported? It was Ben Jacobs, wasn't it? Oh, it's annoying that I can't find it now. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Right. FIFA can confirm that the Club World Cup winner will receive $125 million. Okay. Here we go. Participation prize pool is $525 million. You wait for entrants to receive the most, and a variable fee based on ranking and revenue. Range is 12.81 million to 38.19 million. Chelsea, Man City, Real Madrid, and Bayern Munich are going to get the top end. CONMEBOL clubs will receive a circa 15.21 million to enter. CONCACAF, CAF, and AFC ones 9.5 million, and OFC teams pocket 3.58 million. There is a further 475 million for sporting performance. This covers win bonuses, bonuses for each game and round, which will be the same for every club. So as we said, we've got over $1 billion in circulation here, guys. Over $1 billion. 525 million just for taking part will be distributed to all of the clubs, and then a further 475 million just for being a part of the competition. So that is telling you, well, quite frankly, I mean, I think it's exceptional the way that the finances are being distributed. And we didn't earn this spot in the respect that Bowley and Clear Lake had nothing to do with us getting to this competition in the first place. This is an Abramovich achievement, which we all know we would love Abramovich to have reaped the rewards of being a part of this competition. But it's a lifeline, isn't it? It's a financial lifeline. And the more money that you can get from this competition, the more you can hopefully invest into a better squad. Now, do I think that Chelsea can do well in this competition? I think we can get past the first round. I think that we can get past the first phase in our first three matches. We know that, if I'm not wrong, Club Leon have been kicked out, so they're no longer. They were going to be our first match. We were going to play Club Leon on Monday, the 16th of June, and that's 8 o'clock UK time, if I'm not wrong, or something like that. So, 16th of June, we were going to play Club Leon. Now we don't know who we're going to be playing. Then we've got Flamengo, and then we've got El Tunis as well. Those are our first three games. We get through that, then we go into the knockouts, and that is where things will get tasty. And listen, you hope that you can get a good round and get as far as you can. I'm going to be in America anyway, so I'm flying into Atlanta to watch the first match. Then I think we're going to Philadelphia, and the final is in New York. So we'll see what happens with that. But let's see what you guys have to say about this as well. Is Palmer out for the season, or is it a smoke screen? I don't think he's out for the season. I doubt that's the case. I'm actually a centre back in football, so definitely not playing as a striker. The reason I play as a centre back is very simple. You run less, and that's the way I like it. Alex, do you agree that the board didn't help at all Maresca? Not buying a striker and not strengthening the defence. Our centre backs are awful, and the goalkeeping position. No, I totally agree with that. I think that the January window was a disgrace, and that was our opportunity to cement ourselves as a Champions League squad. And if we would have backed this manager properly, then I think we would have been in a much better position. Not only because we would have had more quality, but we would have had more confidence within the squad as a fan base. But let's not try and dismiss the impact that new signings have on any team. When a team has these signings, ultimately it's a boost, it's a refreshener. So you look at it and you say, okay, well, I'm a winger now. I've got this other winger that's coming. I've got to work a little bit harder to compete against him. Or I'm a centre back, same thing, whatever the position. And you've got your best players, your Palmers, your Caicedos, and they'll be looking around and they'll go, oh, nice. I'm glad to see that this club is pushing forward. We're in a good position here. This is good. You want to feel as a player that the club is moving in the same direction as you. You're working so hard on the training ground to improve yourself, your individual skills, so that you can contribute to the team. But then the people that pick the players, they're taken away from it. They're making your life harder as a player. Vega's gone. Felix is gone. No striker. And then both of your strikers get injured. Oh, my God. There you go. What's going to happen now? Of course, you're going to struggle to score goals. So, yeah, absolutely. The board didn't help whatsoever. I agree with that. Also, I want to know as well, though, did Maresca have a say in these decisions? And I believe he did. I believe he was probably asked, are you okay with these players leaving? And he probably said yes, at least in the case of João Felix. I certainly agree with that. I think he said that as well. If Thomas Tuchel stayed, then we would have been like third in the table by now, or second at least. He made more effort with the club than Maresca. I mean, who knows? Who knows? I don't know what would have happened if Tuchel was at the club. But what I can say is very simple, is that we made the wrong decision sacking Tuchel. It was clearly an error in judgment. And look, we bite the bullet for it. The ownership, they had to deal with it, didn't they? Because they threw our first season down the toilet because we finished 12th. So, yeah, that's where we are in that respect. The Club World Cup will expose Chelsea and Clown Lake's recruitment strategy. What do you mean by that, Stephen? Do you mean our lack of quality? We do have a talented squad. I agree with you on that as well. But we don't have an established squad. And this is the key, is talent, like Mudryk has it tattooed on himself. Talent is not enough. We need mentality. We need experience. We need players that we can lean on. We need numbers. We need goals. We need GA. We need players that are available consistently. This is something that talent doesn't take into consideration at the highest level. You know, that's why you have players like Sancho who come in and do really well for a period in the season and then they go quiet. That's talent. Do you like talent if that's what you see? Mudryk is talent, unfulfilled talent. Is that what we're looking for here? We've got a lot of talent, but I need more than just talent. Why would you believe we would do well in the Club World Cup? I'm very worried that we will embarrass ourselves. I mean, I'm worried as well, Neil. I mean, I'm not saying we will do well. I'm saying that we'll go for it. I think we'll take this competition seriously, much more than we did domestically in the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup as well. Alex won't agree the squad don't do good enough, but expects miracles from a manager with 1 year experience. You can't make this up. So you agree then that the manager's incompetent and incapable of managing this team because he has 1 year of experience. He clearly isn't qualified to take on a job like Chelsea. So don't think I'm wrong in saying that the manager's not good enough, though, because he only got 1 year of experience. Just like if you ask me to go and run one of the top companies in the world, and I've only ever had experience managing maybe a local company or a company nowhere near as big, I'm obviously not going to perform. So you basically agree with me. Madrid is winning the Club World Cup. Yeah, that wouldn't doubt me. Alex was so positive during a long bad run under Poch. We are fourth in the league, but somehow you all want everything to be great. Let's just wait for the season to end, then we judge. And I think you've said that very well, Clay. And ultimately, we want the team to do well, don't we? And although I don't believe that we will get there under Maresca, I struggle to see that. I hope we do it. And I will be just as happy as everyone else, including Lewis, who I know will love it if Maresca does well. And he'll be saying in my face, and I'll be happy. And I will give Maresca some leeway for that. But I have nothing to back this manager on because he's never done anything. So excuse me for not defending a manager that I've never heard of before he signed for Chelsea and only ever had one season in club football as a manager. But I hope all the best to Maresca again. Of course, we always want to support our managers, but that doesn't take away from the fact that you may or may not think he's good enough. No striker, no top goalkeeper, no centre back, but let's blame Maresca, Alex. But who's picking the goalkeeper? Who's picking? That's the first reason that I wanted Maresca out in the first place, was because he kept picking Robert Sanchez. So, again, we don't have Petrovic. Maresca probably had a say in that. So that's actually something that we can say. The second thing is that, when it comes to the goalkeepers, he dropped Sanchez for Jorgensen, and then he brought Jorgensen back into the fold, and he dropped him again. So he's very indecisive when it comes to these players. I mean, I'd love to. If we backtrack to 2 months ago, if I go on, the channel at that point, we were talking about that's the breakthrough. That today is the day that and defend Sanchez. And I'm not even talking about the setup. I'm not talking about the way we try and play. That's not the big issue for me. The issue is simple things. Pick the right fucking keeper. Jorgensen is right there. And you still come out after the game and defend Sanchez. What the fuck does he have to do? What the fuck? I could sit here. I could make all the fucking... Oh my... Honestly. So that's the reason that I actually originally stopped supporting Maresca, was because of the goalkeeper. So you say we don't have a top striker or a top goalkeeper. We're still playing one of the worst goalkeepers I've ever seen in a Chelsea shirt. So how does that make any sense? Also, you talk about the centre-backs as well. Like, that doesn't change the fact that we're not scoring goals. And a lot of the mistakes that we've conceded goals from were because of the goalkeeper. 5 in total, maybe 6 by now. I don't even know. We dropped more points because of our keeper than our centre-backs in a lot of respects. I mean, I actually don't know the numbers, so I'm not going to pretend to know. But that's the original reason that I stopped supporting Maresca, or I questioned Maresca, was the goalkeeper. So we look even last season when Poch was there, he dropped Sanchez and brought Petrovic in, and I was really happy about it. It's common sense, and I want a manager with common sense, and I just struggle to see it in that respect. Also, I mean, the training's not exactly going well. I mean, you've seen what we said earlier. I don't know. We'll see. I hope that we can do it, but nobody's going to kid me into thinking that I should believe that Maresca's the man to bring Chelsea trophies. I mean, fucking have a day off, really. Have a day off. The last time Chelsea won a trophy was the 2022 FIFA Club World Cup with Tuchel. God, was that the last one? That's mad. Ignoring the live chat because it doesn't suit your agenda. Well, I have addressed the live chat, so that's a load of nonsense. Don't think Chelsea won't get much money in the tournament for the squad we've got at the moment. We need to sign more players before the competition, and we might get past in the first round. I mean, listen, we'll have to wait and see. I don't know what's going to happen in the Club World Cup. There is a good chance that we could end up just losing the first couple of games and get knocked out of the competition, but I highly doubt that. But one thing that we will see is a huge intensity from these other teams, because for teams like Flamengo and El Tunis, this is the biggest game of their season in a lot of respects, playing against top European sides. So they're going to take it very seriously. And we need to be ready for that. But ultimately, quality should shine through. And Chelsea have more quality than those two teams I've just mentioned. Are the pitches really bad? Surely I'm sure that they'll be all right with the pitches. No, they'll do them up. I don't think that we'll have Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Jay says the Club World Cup is going to be a rude awakening. Again, we'll have to wait and see. So, Alex, if you think he wasn't back properly and it's the majority of the board's fault, why not give Maresca a bit of slack? Let him figure out his next move without so much criticism. Look, I'm all for giving managers patience. And my track record speaks for itself. I've actually never really called for the sacking of any Chelsea manager, maybe Potter towards the end. But I was supportive of Sarri when he was the Chelsea manager. I was supportive of Conte. I was supportive of all of these guys. Tuchel, obviously. I was supportive of Poch, even though I never wanted Poch to manage Chelsea. I was against the hiring of Poch, but once he was brought in, I thought, okay, let's give him a chance. Maresca, the reason that I don't like this manager is because he is a pawn in this game. And he is the first genuine, proper yes man I have ever seen at Chelsea. Now, we can argue that Potter was a yes man. You can say that. But his position as a Chelsea manager was an impossible fix. You sign so many players. You're getting rid of so many players. You have no stability within the club. You don't even have a sporting director. He was destined to fail when he came into the job. Any manager would have failed. Mourinho would have failed. If Tuchel had just walked in the job at Chelsea, he would have failed because the environment was just wretched. And we saw when Lampard come in, we thought maybe we'd have a bounce back. It was finished. So no manager could have done well for us during that first season. Tuchel would have done better than all of them because he had been there before. And that was one of the things that could be reassuring to players is you had a manager that knew how to win things at this club and has done it and is still there. So he could have brought some stability in that respect, but we got rid of that. Why do I not give Maresca slack? Okay, let me answer that. First of all, because of the goalkeeping situation. Second of all, because of the style of play. Thirdly, because he's a yes man, and he lies to the club. To the fans. He's not honest in his press conferences. He withholds information now, which he never used to do when he first took the job. He talks about standards. There's a huge lack of standards. I thought against Arsenal it was embarrassing how he shook Timber's hand while he was saying, try harder, congratulations, and then proceeded to smile. And quite frankly, he's just too relaxed. He's too relaxed. I don't see a guy with any sort of impetus to try and push this club forward. Like, of course he wants to do well. Nobody's doubting that. It's not about whether he wants to do well. It's do you think he has enough credentials and quality as a manager? Because it's not just quality with the players. You've got to have a good tactician, someone who's good at man managing, who improves players individually. I don't see him having enough in his arsenal to prove to me at this moment in time that he is capable of moving this club forward. I've seen more players regress under this manager than I did last season. From where they started the season to where they finished the season, I saw a bigger improvement from beginning to end with Jackson. I saw Cucurella improve tremendously under Poch compared to the previous season. Caicedo's improved under Maresca. There's no doubt about that. He's improved an awful lot. Fernandes has improved. Cucurella has maintained that level. He's probably gotten a little bit better. There are players that have improved. There's no doubt. But Palmer has got worse. And Gusto has got worse. And our goalkeeping situation has got worse. So there are a number of aspects where I look at Maresca and I just think that sometimes as a manager, you have to let players do what they need to do. And one thing that we did last season is we knew that the team wasn't playing well, so we lent on Palmer to produce. We gave him the freedom. We gave Gusto the ability to overlap. When Reece James was on the pitch, we let him use his qualities. And that's what I believe a good manager can do. I'm not saying he should do it because you want to have a structure as well. And we can argue all we want about Pochettino's structure. We know it wasn't the best last season. There's no doubt about that. But I think that there's almost too much structure at the moment. And that is killing the creativity that we have in our team, and the fact that we have a young team who are scared to pass forward, because if they pass forward and give the ball away, they know that the manager's going to have a go at them. He actively says to the press, if Enzo Fernandez doesn't pass backwards, I will substitute him. If Robert Sanchez or Jorgensen doesn't pass short, I will take them off the pitch. I mean, there's so many reasons that I could speak about Maresca and say that I don't trust him. He has not got anything for me to lean on and say, I trust this guy. It just doesn't have anything. And it's just boring as well. Are you not bored watching Chelsea, right? Are you not bored? People watching at home, you can get off the sofa or turn the telly. I pay for the tickets. I've got to watch it. And it's honestly a question of who's going to fall asleep first, me or the guy sitting next to me, because it's not entertaining whatsoever. So those are just a couple of reasons that I'm not a big fan of Maresca. But you can use whatever you want to justify why you like him. Alex, we all know the reason Maresca is playing Sanchez. It's clear to see. Sanchez has screenshots of Maresca's nudes. Oh, my goodness. Maresca was involved in agreeing loan deals for our players that left. Go and listen to the press conference. So, again, you look at the goalkeeping situation and even Vega or Felix, Maresca probably had a part to play. And judging from the comments when João Felix did leave, Maresca was happy for him to leave. So he's involved in these decisions, but he is a massive yes man. Nobody can deny that. And I saw a comment saying everyone's a yes man. I can't see it now. Do you think that Poch was a yes man? Do you think that Tuchel was a yes man? Do you think that Sarri was a yes man? Conte, all the great managers we've had, Mourinho was a yes man. Like that's not how it works, right? They would not take the Chelsea job right now if they were offered double the money. Well, actually, they probably would. Ooh, I'd take the Chelsea job if I was offered double the money I'm on. So maybe that's not a good point. But they wouldn't take this Chelsea job. That's the point I'm saying. Because as a manager, there is no such thing as management at Chelsea. If you are in Maresca's shoes, you are not a manager. You are a coach. Really important to understand the difference. Arteta is a manager. Okay, Guardiola. Is Guardiola a man? Let's just use Arteta. He's a good example. Arteta is a manager. He has control of a lot of things at Arsenal, and he has some serious influence. North London forever. The fact that they play that song at Arsenal is because of Arteta and his influence, and that will probably stick for years to come, forever. The players that Arsenal bring in are not without the thumbs up from the manager. Right, he works closely with recruitment. He has a say in these players. Aubameyang, when they got rid of Aubameyang at Arsenal, that was because of Arteta. When they got rid of Mesut Ozil, Arteta was involved in that heavily. So then you have to ask yourself the question: if Maresca, if he didn't want a certain player, would he get backed to the same level that Arteta is backed? Would he have a player that he really wants, he really needs? Let's say Isak from Newcastle, good striker, really good striker, or Osimhen. This is the player that I need to take this team to the next level. He will not be backed by this ownership because it doesn't fit what they want. It's all about financials, guys. And as long as the manager doesn't want someone that they can sell on for a profit, they can feed into that. That's brilliant. Oh, great. Fantastic. We'll make profit there. Yeah, Maresca's got nothing for me, guys. We talk about Poch and common sense. Come on, Alex. Chilwell at left winger. But I'm not saying everything he did was good, guys. I'm not saying that. I'm absolutely not saying. So you're saying that inverting Gusto is a good thing. you're saying that playing Sanchez every week is a good thing. You're saying playing Nkunku on the wing is a good thing. Well, we're talking about common sense here. So every manager has their flaws. There's no doubt about that. But I'm not backing a manager who's never done fuck all. He's done fuck all. And that's the reality of it. You're going to trust a manager who's done absolutely sweet fuck all. He's done nothing. He managed Leicester and he scraped the championship. Scraped it by the skin of his teeth. And you think he's the next Guardiola. I don't see it. I do not see it. And also, again, it's come down to the ownership as well. If Abramovich was in charge of this club and he hired Maresca and gave him time, maybe I think Abramovich knows something that we don't know here, because Abramovich is a winner. He wants the best for this club. He's going to back this manager. We could do some serious things. Our ownership are not serious. Our recruitment are not serious. So why would our manager be serious? They're not hiring serious managers, guys. What happens if you're all wrong with your predictions on where we'll end up come the end of the season? What happens then? How do we take your critics? I'm not a pundit. I'm a fan. So it doesn't matter if you agree or disagree with me. I'm not trying to prove that I'm right. I mean, if I'm right, I'm right. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I've been right on certain things. I've been wrong on certain things. I just move on and watch the club. That's it. Doesn't matter if I'm right or wrong. I hope I'm wrong. To be quite frank, if I'm wrong, it means Chelsea are going to do very well. But I don't think I am. That's the truth. No manager under these owners has a say. Well, look, I think they do have a say, but they don't have. They never have final say, which is the difference between the modern managers now and what management used to be. It used to be that whatever a manager said, that's what's going to happen. And you have a budget and the manager is in charge of managing that budget in terms of players that come in and players that go. These days, the manager will give his opinion, but if his opinion isn't the same as the sporting directors or the owner, then it will never happen. And that's what's really happened. Mm-hmm. Who built our squad? Lawrence Stewart and Paul Stanley. The owners have to change before managers has any control. That's true. What has Pochettino done? What has he won? Well, he's had multiple years of experience in the Premier League. He got Spurs to a Champions League final, and that's more than Maresca's done. So, I mean, I don't know what the argument is there. I'm not saying that Poch was good enough to get the Chelsea job. I'm not saying that. I'm saying clearly he has more credentials than Maresca ever had. Mm-hmm. Boom! You answered your own question. We are an unserious institution from top to bottom. So why should I attack a head coach when he didn't hire himself? Someone hired him, and that's where the problem is. Well, I agree with you in the sense that, yeah, we are an unserious institution in that sense. And that's why we hired Maresca. That's just, I mean, I don't know what people want me to say. People want me to bow down to this manager as if he's the best thing ever. I hope he does well. I really do. I hope he does well. And he will get nothing but praise from me when he does, if he does. I'm not seeing it right now. And that's it. So, listen, people can agree or disagree with what I'm saying. You're entitled to your opinion. Poch found his balls 2 months from the end. That's very true, mate. That's very true. Sonic says we should stand against fans like Alex who have no base for arguments. So what's my argument then? What's my argument? Stop lying. What am I lying about? Please enlighten me. Neil says, you're right, the job is too big for him. Tommy says, hi, Alex. I think you've spoken well multiple times. You've been on TalkSport. Thanks for representing Chelsea in a good light. Oh, thank you, mate. Appreciate that. Also, actually, now that we mention it, I will share another video, which I was meant to share earlier. I totally forgot about it. I was on TalkSport yesterday. They were asking me about the ownership and the new stadium. So let's have a look. So if you don't understand what's going on with the stadium, I would like to show you this video because I think this might be helpful.
Bridge, one of the most iconic stadiums in English football history and the home of Chelsea. It's seen everything in the club's 120-year history. Financial woes, mammoth takeovers, the special one, Premier League titles, and incredible Champions League nights. And of course, iconic players as well. Gianfranco Zola, Gianluca Vialli, Didier Drogba, Frank Lampard. The list goes on and on. But today it's been reported that the bridge could be ripped down and rebuilt, with Chelsea chairman and co-owner Todd Boehly saying, I think we're going to be building something new. In times like these, you need to speak to the people that this means the most to, the fans. I'm pleased to say that joining me now is the host of Chelsea Fan TV and season ticket holder, Alex Harris. Alex, let's get straight into it then. First things first, do you want a straight rebuild for Chelsea and Stamford Bridge, or would you be happy to move elsewhere?
To be honest with you, I can see both sides of it. If I had to choose, just off the top of my head, I would say move somewhere else. As long as it's close enough, not a million miles away, within 5-10 miles, I don't think we can complain. London's a difficult place to rebuild. We know that we've got a lot of issues with Stamford Bridge as well, because you're only capped up to about 60,000. So if you want to upgrade the stadium, you've got about 20,000 extra seats, and then there's no point of going any further because you can't. So that's the debate that a lot of people are having. And I know that a lot of the CPO shareholders, the Chelsea pitch owners, they are very keen to remain at Stamford Bridge, the majority of people I speak to within the CPO. But what people don't seem to realize as well is that the majority of CPO shareholders are older fans. You don't actually have that many young fans that are in the CPO. Quite expensive. It's about £125. But if you want to have a say, that's the only way you can do it. If you genuinely want to have a vote on that decision, if it was to happen. The thing is, if we relocate to Earls Court, for example, and I know people have spoken about that location, we are totally uncapped. We can look at 80, 100,000 seats within the future. And that is something that we can look at and say, oh, we can actually do it. A bit like when you have a great owner, you say, we can buy this great player. If you've got the money, you can get anyone, right? Whereas we can't do that right now at Stamford Bridge. So for that reason and that reason alone, I think it's silly to remain at Stamford Bridge, just from the perspective that Chelsea are going to be left behind financially in terms of match days and then the revenue that they can bring in as well.
One of the things that Todd Boehly said is that Stamford Bridge is very cramped. But is that what makes it so special? I mean, that's just a traditional football stadium, is it not?
It's great, and you look at, Craven Cottage is a good example of Fulham, West Ham, when they were at Upton Park, they had a good atmosphere. Tottenham at White Hart Lane is totally different to what they have now in West Ham's case and Tottenham's as well. Like, the thing is, with a bigger stadium, you just have more pull as a club, ultimately. And that's what these owners are looking at. And we're not looking at a local owner like Ken Bates, an Englishman, or Abramovich, who loves the club and wants the best for the fan base, cares about the atmosphere. Boehly doesn't care about any of that. Boehly cares about maximizing profits and bringing revenue into the club, which can then be taken out. Okay, ultimately, the more money the club make, the more profitable the club is, then that means that it can be sold on for a better profit further down the line. In Boehly's case, I know he wants to be here for a long time, so he's in no rush to do it, which is why he said, he's happy to wait 16 to 20 years. Whereas you look at Clearlake and Egg Barley, they haven't even spoken about rebuilding a stadium. And that's actually very, it's very interesting when you look at it, because Chelsea are owned by private equity, okay? So you have one side, which is Boehly's consortium, Hansi Wiss, Mark Walter, Boehly, right? Boehly controls the shares for that. He represents that consortium. And then you've got about 62% covered by Clearlake. Now, if you look at what private equity care about, the history of private equity, right? I'm just basing what I've heard from people who work in that industry. They go in for around 3 to 10 years, all right, when they invest in companies. In this case, Chelsea is a business to them, right? And they will be looking to exit by 2033. Now, why haven't Clear Lake spoken about a new stadium? It's obvious, because they don't want a new stadium. They will not be involved in a new stadium while Chelsea Football Club are here, because private equity care about free operating cash flow, which means profits, essentially. That's the best way I can describe it. The only way you can prove cash flow in football is with the Brighton model. And the Brighton model is to buy set players and sell them at a profit and have a really low wage structure where only 10% of your revenues are being spent on wages. And the problem with building a new stadium is that it's a cash flow deficit. So let's look at Tottenham, for example. You know, they built their new stadium. I think their financials came out not long ago. They're not a profitable club at the moment. Can you believe that? Tottenham are not a profitable club with their stadium. And that's because even though they've built this new stadium, which is fantastic, and 20 years down the line, they will be making a lot of money from it. They have to pay that money off, right? They have to service their debts. So that's the issue that we have, is that we've already taken on so much debt as a football club. We took £700 million from the banks. We took £500 million from Ares. So we've already got about £1.2 billion in debt. And the issue as well is the debt that we took from Ares Capital is it's subordinated debt. What that means is that by 2033, purely that 500 million that we borrowed, we'll have to pay 1.7 billion pounds back on top of the 700 million that we borrowed from the banks, which is 2.5 billion. So if we were to sell the club in 2033 for 2.5 billion, the owners would make nothing. That's just paying off their debts. So you can understand why we're in a really precarious position from Clear Lake's standpoint to be profitable. Because if they can't sell the club for much more than 2.5 billion, on top of paying back their debts, then they're not going to make any money out of this, which is why they will not be involved in the stadium.
Mate, as we already know, Chelsea's form has been up and down over the last couple of years, and moving to a new stadium, you think of Arsenal moving into the Emirates, Spurs, the redevelopment of the old White Hart Lane into the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It hampered them on the pitch. Chelsea's young squad, the new generation that they're trying to bring through, could these changes and moving into a new stadium, like we've seen it through history, could these changes impact all of that on the pitch?
Us basically not prioritizing success on the pitch. Every decision that's being made is with the finances in mind. And this is why we don't sign players over the age of 25. This is why we have a specific wage cap, which again, we'll look to model what Brighton are doing, which is about 10% of the money Chelsea bring in will be spent on wages. That will free up 90% of money for other things. Again, we go back to cash flow as well. So we're going to be selling players on, and you can't buy expensive players for 100 million and sell them for much profit. It just doesn't happen. So you have to go in the markets like we've done in Portugal recently. We spent 70 million on those two youngsters, and we're probably going to be looking at that in mind to sell those guys on for a profit, thinking that, right, these are two of the best young players in world football in their positions for their age group. If we spent 40 million for them now, maybe we can get 80 million for them in 5 years. And that's what ultimately they're looking at. They're looking at future profits, which is a very risky game. You know, you're rolling the dice with every transfer you make. But when you're an investor, you can look at that and say, by the time it gets to 2033, those young players that we were invested in 10 years ago, 2023, they were 17, now they're 27. They're still at the peak of their career. So those players still have value. And that is what we have in mind with everything we're doing. And if we ended up selling Palmer, let's just say for 120 million, then they've got Esteval who comes in, they've got Kendry Pyers who come in, and the cycle repeats itself. Obviously, we need success on the pitch. There's no doubt about that. But what is success? Is it trophies? Is it top four? And you can easily see that trophies is not a priority because we haven't prioritized domestic competitions really this season under Enzo Maresca. And the Conference League is, I mean, you'd have to you have to try not to win it in order to not win it. So I don't think that trophies is a big priority, but Champions League is going to be massive for us because that will increase the wage threshold by about 30%. And that will obviously help us attract players as well. But I do think it's a bit of a facade when we talk about trophies. Like, what do you look at Chelsea and say, oh yeah, they're trying to win? Like, where's the statement signing? Where's the final piece of the puzzle? It's like, okay, we know we need a striker. We had the chance. We were literally there for Victor Osimhen, and we went extra 50 grand, no chance. Can you imagine that? 50 grand. And the amount of money that some of these ownerships in world football will spend in order to get a player that can lock up a title or even push them to that next level. We won't spend an extra £50,000 a week in order to get a world-class striker. So that's where we are. We're penny pinchers FC, we're hedge fund FC, we're stock market FC, and that's the reality of it.
It makes you think at the same time as well. You speak about Manchester United and their new stadium plans. In my opinion, a bit of an eyesore. I think a lot of fans, Manchester United and neutrals, are stuck in between as well. You either love it or you hate it. If Chelsea are going to rebuild, how paramount is it that they make it look nice rather than Butlin's Minehead with Manchester United?
I mean, yeah, I've seen the criticism about United's new stadium. Do you know what it is, though? At least their owner supports Man United. Like, he must have the best interests of Man United. I know people don't like Jim Radcliffe, all the rest of it. For me, I'd rather have Jim Radcliffe at my club. I'm supposing he was a Chelsea fan. Like, I'd rather have an owner like that who is a boyhood fan, who cares about the club. Like, people can talk all they want about him stripping people's jobs, etc., etc. Jim Radcliffe has put over £300 million of his own money into Manchester United this season, if I'm not wrong. And our owners would never dare do that. They borrow money. They do not put their own money. They don't risk their own pockets. So everything that Chelsea does is, oh, what can we get for this? We invest this money, but we're going to get much more back. And I don't think Jim Radcliffe operates in that way. I think that he invests the money to actually, improve Manchester United. As strange as it sounds, I'd much rather have an owner like that. But we'll have to see over the next couple of years how it shapes out. Obviously, they don't have the restrictions that we do with Old Trafford. They can build basically anywhere within that site, and they have so much space to do it, and we don't have that luxury. So if he was operating in London, obviously it'd be a different kettle of fish. There you go. So that was on the stadium from yesterday. But big up to everyone that's been watching. We've got over 100 of you in here. Let's smash the like button. Let's get up to 100 likes on the video. Smash the like button if you haven't already. I'll go through one or two more comments and I'm going to wrap it up. Rory says, Alex, I value your love for Chelsea and your vision and opinions of the state of the club. Unlike Rory Jennings, who thrives on the club's downfall, but is our poster fan. Should be you on the overlap. Thank you very much. It's very kind of you. Appreciate that. Arsenal score for fun with a 5-year project, still not winning anything, while Chelsea are playing inverting football with no elite experience. Yeah, well, look, again, I hope we do well. I really do. I don't want people to think that because I'm not optimistic about what I'm seeing, I want the club to do badly. Of course I don't. I've been going to Chelsea since I was... consistently since I was 15. And, I've seen us win trophies. I was there in Baku when we won the Europa League. I went to Porto. I saw us win the Champions League. I met Abramovich in Porto the day after we won the Champions League. I've seen us win FA Cups. I saw Drogba's winner against Liverpool in 2012. I saw us beat United in the final with Conte when Hazard scored the win. I've seen some great moments. So I want to see more of those moments. That's what I want. But we'll have to wait and see what happens, guys. But big up to everyone. We're going to have another stream in the evening. So stay tuned for that one. And I'll catch up with you very soon, guys. Enjoy the